What's up, all? It's Freddy the Ref. I am here with Kikko, the Golden One, and a very special guest of mine, the legend, the innovator, Mr. Glenn Palmer. Thank you very much for allowing us into your home to interview you. We got a lot of questions. Maybe you got a lot of answers.
Yeah, so, for sure.
Let's get started. So, first of all, who is Glenn Palmer?
Just a paintballer with an extensive background in gunsmithing.
How long have you been a gunsmith? You were a gunsmith in your family?
Since I was a little I'm third generation.
Third generation.
And I mean, I basically started learning when I was 5 years old. My dad had a gun store by the time I was 7, and I worked. I was reloading ammunition and helping around the shop and all that even when I was 5, 6, 7 years old. So.
And your son Craig works now.
Yeah.
He
had when he graduated high school, he had kind of a choice. He could go to college or come work for me, and he chose to come work for me.
Yeah.
After I got hurt, it was autumn. I was on my way out anyway. I was just kind of pulling back. It was getting near time for me to retire anyway, so I'd worked it long enough.
And Craig took over the reins of it, right?
It was all from day one. It was for him. It wasn't about me or paintball or anything. It was the whole thing was for him. I got zipped from my old man.
Yeah.
I mean, I got nothing but a hard time from him when he was alive, and when he passed, I got a belt buckle, and that was only because Mom gave it to me. But it was I wanted to make sure that I could build something to give to my son to say, here, this is yours now.
And when you got into paintball, what motivated you to get into, when you found paintball? When did you find it?
I saw it on TV, I think. There was a little blurb about it on TV. Latter part of '84, I think. And sometime that's following spring, Craig and I were going fishing at Party. Drove down the road, and there was a sign on the side of the road, survival game.
That was Adventure Games? AG?
No, it was APG. Well,
APG.
what became, it was SSI at first, Survival Sports Incorporated, back in the day.
Yeah.
And that's the sign I saw right there on the road. At the same entrance that it has now.
Yeah.
And
West Coast. It's now West Coast, right?
Huh?
It's West Coast now?
It's West Coast Adventure Park?
Yeah, something like that.
It was AG Games, Adventure Games, right? The brothers owned it?
Kikko?
Is that who owned it?
The Kikko brothers? Well,
there were some angry guys.
Yeah, that's Kikko's. Well, that's Alan.
Alan was angry.
Alan Kikko.
He's all right guy, but he was always angry, huh?
Yeah, just
part of the game. And Glenn could tell you about people's characters because he's seen it. Not only is he has character, but he is a character, so he would know.
Oh yeah.
But yeah,
I never was one to bite my lip when I saw something wrong. I was always one to step up and when in the biker community, and my handle became troublemaker.
Yeah.
And it wasn't so much that I made trouble, but I always tended to get in trouble's way. You know, when the trouble was brewing, I'd be the one there to say, no, you can't do that.
So you found the game in 87. No, in 84.
85 would be when I started.
And that's the first time you played?
Yeah.
And we're out there.
Yeah, I played with the Windsor Warriors. Windsor Door Company.
Yeah.
Back then it was everything. Even when I first went out to the field, what I came away with was get yourself a team together and come on out and play.
Yeah.
So, and then I walked into a competition's, another door company out in West Sac, Windsor Door Company, walked in there and they had a sign in their little office. They were getting up their employees, getting a team together to go out and play. I said, can I come with you? And they signed me up, and I went out and played, and that year we ended up getting the trophy out at SSI for being the winningest team.
Yeah. You were hooked then.
I was hooked after the first time I played. I think the third time I played, I even wrote on the inside of the Sandy Hut, Paintball Junkie.
Yeah.
I was.
And what'd you play with? What was the first marker?
Well, I played with the field guns early on for a
And what
long
were
time,
those?
just the 007s.
007, the Nell
Stock one,
spots.
bolt, Nell
Yeah.
spots, bolt action. We didn't have pumps or anything on
Yeah.
that.
So what happened to change when you thought you could modify this, or that it was already happening?
It was the third, I think it was the, see, back then I was only playing like every other month.
Yeah, it was expensive.
Well, not only that, it was just the only time we could get the team
Yeah.
together for that type of thing. And the Windsor Warriors, we were playing like every other month. And I think it was about the third time I played or something, they came out with the first PGs.
Yeah.
Cool.
And that was a Benjamin based?
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
PGP without a pump.
Yeah.
Without a pump. That was a PGs. And I bought one of each. With my son and I. And I just
That was a bolt action. No?
pulled
Yeah.
on the back.
On the back, yeah, bolt action.
And I started in trying to figure out which one I was going to be the most effective for me.
Yeah.
And I ended up doing most of getting the best shooting out of the PG.
Yeah.
Well, shortly thereafter they had the pump, so the PGP.
So evolution was already happening
Oh
when
yeah.
you got into it.
Well, my whole thing was trying to minimize the times when you were the most vulnerable,
Yeah.
and changing CO2s, and that was when I was the most vulnerable on
Now
the field.
the Nell spots had them CO2 in the bottom in the grip, correct?
Mhm.
2 pieces, like the grip.
Yeah, everybody left that one side off.
Yeah, one side out.
So I get to it quicker.
And and the PGPs had the knob in the front. With about umpteen turns on it
Yeah.
to get it out.
Yeah, you couldn't get it off, right?
And
Is that when they started drilling holes in the tip so they could get an Allen wrench in there quicker sometimes?
well, I did that as part of the venting process that I had. It was when you saw the holes in the things, that was so you could adjust the regulator, primarily on the semi-auto guns. You could use an Allen wrench. Actually, the first Hurricanes all came with the adjusting knob was the original front knob
I remember
was
that.
drilled, and it came with. I had a finish nail, about a 12-penny finish nail that I bend a little bit, drill a hole in the front of the stock, and it stuck down in the front of the stock. So if you fingers weren't strong enough, or if you were all aired up, because when it was aired up is when it was only hard to turn.
Now the Hurricane wasn't until 89 or 90, right?
That's when I put it on the market, was 89.
So back to the other one. So you got the PGP and you modified it. The quick change was your first endeavor.
Well, that was the first thing that I put on the market. Yeah,
Your
was
first
the Quicksilver.
Yeah, the Quicksilver. So he's the innovator of the Quicksilver for the 12 grams, right?
Yeah, that's what's on that front right there.
The Bible.
There's other pictures of it in there too. But that was just the first brochure for it.
And that was in 85.
That was 87.
87.
This was 87.
That did that.
And the major manufacturers then were PMI. Bushmasters were the Nell Spot derivative.
All we had then was Nelson and Sheridan's.
Yeah. But they modified, and that changed from the Nelson to the Bushmaster, correct? They put two things
Bushmaster,
on.
that was Ross Alexander. Was the original Skirmish. He was with Skirmish Inc.
Yeah.
Back in.
He modified that, and that was in Southern California.
And
At the time, you started
he got
producing
somebody,
products.
him and I can't remember who else it was. I want to say like Stan Russell had something to do with it, but they came up with just a way to put a longer barrel on a Nell spot.
And they put 2 pumps on there, right? Or 2 things for the pump?
Well, it had originally
Because the Nell Spot only had 1 arm coming off the pump,
off
right?
the side, yeah.
Yeah, so Bushmasters were 2, correct? Right. And this was happening
Yeah,
at the same time.
the Line SI kit when they first came out with that was just the long barrel connection for the Nell Spot. It would accept a stock valve and all of that.
Yeah.
You could just change barrels basically on it, and it had a double-sided pump handles.
Then at that time, was there any other Los Angeles
He was showing those the first time also in June of '88.
Yeah. So, and you were introduced, was Bud Orr around then? Was the Sniper innovated then?
He was doing the Sniper, but it wasn't big time.
Yeah.
You know,
The
at the time.
But he had the Ranger at the same time, no? Is that what he came out with?
That came out in '88, I think.
Okay.
He started. That I saw the first. I think was
And
the
that
first
would- that would
advertisement
be-
for
yeah.
the Ranger.
So that would
Which
be
was
to
basic-
go against the Bushmaster, basically. About that
Well,
same
the original Ranger wasn't even that. The original Ranger, yeah, it had a little bit longer barrel
Yeah.
on it, but it was basically a stock Nelson body, all the
Yeah.
steel body and everything else with a direct feed welded on it and a little bit longer barrel
All right.
slid in the front.
And when you came out with your first gun, so you modified the PGB. So what else modifications?
My
did you come
first
up
guns were always just what I started with was Sheridans,
with? The Sheridans.
and I was just basically the houndstooth was the pump.
Yeah.
Was basically a stock Sheridan PMI when I could put, the body was, and I redid everything on the inside.
The valve, modifying the valve system.
Tripled the efficiency and got the accuracy weight right in tight.
Yeah.
And they were direct feed. That's
And the quick change bolt, now you could turn the thing and pull the bolt out, right? Who did that first on that type of gun? Where you were pulling the bolts out, right? You made a little notch in it.
well,
and the back bolt
I
would
think
come out?
McMurray did that. The quick strip notch for the bolt.
Uh-huh.
I think McMurray did that first. He had an L-shaped cut that he made. And that's what
Yeah. Had the notch in it.
early on. I think that was.
But did you
McMurray
come off with the bolt system though? You made a bolt for those guns?
for the
Yeah.
I
thought
think it was
about it.
Cooper T did the first ones.
The first ones? Okay.
For the later model ones with the ball detents and
yeah.
with the quick strip and all that.
And this was an
And then the
88,
PMI
87.
did their bolt.
Yeah.
Did their bolt for it. That was opened up and all. Because back in the day, nobody opened anything up. The air passages, even all the McMurray guns, they were just a stock PGP internally.
Yeah.
With a longer barrel. on it.
Yeah.
Nobody ever thought to enlarge the air passage between the valve and the barrel. It wasn't visible, so how can you work on it?
Yeah.
Well, that's when I started drilling holes in the bottom of the gun and lined up with the valve and just put a plug in there, which kind of did two things because it also plugged that extra hole in the valve body. You know, it had the 4 holes around in the original valve body. Well, I enlarged one, lined it up with the hole into the barrel, and used the plug from the hole to hold it in and plug one of the holes in the thing. So the airflow through the valve was more direct.
Yeah.
Instead of going down through all the holes.
Bud Orr didn't, on his gun, he didn't have this for the autococker yet, no?
No, the sniper was just an aluminum block.
Yeah.
A PGP carved into an aluminum block.
Exactly.
And I mean, they were an exact copy.
Yeah.
The same size, holes, everything. It was exactly as a PGP
That's what I
carved
thought,
into an aluminum block.
Just unmilled. Right? Yeah. It was just unmilled piece
That was the original sniper, with just a PGP in an aluminum block so you could put a longer barrel on it.
Yeah. With the threaded barrel, right? From the Bushmaster. Taking the best of the Bushmaster, right? Because that was.
It didn't have the Bushmaster was
wasn't
slip
threaded,
fit.
huh? Yeah, it was slip fit, huh?
Bushmaster
Those little
was-
fucking things would come off, huh?
Yeah, the Bushmaster
That's right, it
was
had a
slip fit.
Bushmaster. And that was supposed to be state-of-the-art gun at that time.
Yeah,
But
it
it
had the one
vibrated.
screw up. It had one screw up in the
You
front.
had to have Loctite up in there, right? And it always came and it'd fall off. Yeah. All right. So when was the first time you made one of your own guns that you would call? What was the first Glenn Palmer gun that you produced for the masses? After modifying, you did years of modifying it. Well, not years, but you crammed all that in a couple of years, huh? From 87 to 88.
Yeah.
You were thinking of it.
I never really. See, that was my thing early on. Is I never really wanted to get into big time marketing of paintball equipment. I was happy to sit at a bench and be a one at a time gunsmith.
Yeah.
That's all I really cared about.
Yeah.
And even with the Quicksilver unit, when for a long time, or not the Quicksilver unit, that was just, I gave my team.
Yeah.
It was about giving my team an advantage.
Yeah.
and enough other people wanted it. I went ahead and marketed it.
Yeah.
What was the same thing though with the semis? I kept trying to give it away.
Yeah.
I didn't want to go into heavy production of guns.
So you make
That's where Elite Weapons got involved,
but-
because I didn't want to build a lot of them.
Yeah. So when you started playing it, once you modified your guns, you started playing more.
I modified my guns for me.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So you modified it for you, and then other people, as
Well,
you were
you
playing,
know,
you
there
started
was-
playing more.
Anything that got in the way of me playing my best game, I went about figuring out how to take care of it.
All right.
It's what,
Yeah. So
you know, and having had that kind of background all my life,
yeah. When did you start Palmer's Pursuit Shop then? In 88, 89, 87? What was that date?
well, it started in '87. It didn't become. It wasn't a licensed business with a checking account that matched the name until January of '88.
Yeah.
I had done a whole bunch of Quicksilver units for people, a lot of them back east.
Yeah.
Done a whole bunch of Quicksilver, and I had all these checks, $45 a piece.
Yeah.
Basically for the Quicksilver units. Had a whole bunch of checks, and didn't have a bank account to even put them in. I had all these checks. Mail. Yeah, I was sending stuff out COD. Well, I was getting checks back, made out to Palmer's Pursuit Shop.
So when you made this Quicksilver, you made the Quicksilver and you sold it back east, and I would presume this is to people who play all the time. So your reputation grew from, as the product, the game changer. Was it a game changer?
Oh, the
In
Quicksilver
competitions,
unit?
yes.
You bet. You bet was a definite game changer.
Okay. So
In
after
the competitions,
that,
in the competition
so
ranks back then.
the,
Well, it wasn't
sport
long. It wasn't long to where I realized the J slots and all that weren't going to work. So we started cutting a hole on the side.
Yeah.
And called it a quickie on the side. It was no longer a Quicksilver. It was a quickie on the side.
Okay.
Because I cut the hole on the side, and the next thing I know, people are cutting the holes in the bottom.
Yeah. So plagiarism has always been
Yeah.
prevalent.
Well, I don't know. It was plagiarism. It was timeline. It was all about the same. But, well, hell, when I first advertised the Quicksilver, the magazine, you know, they do the products for players, advertising goes through. It never did came out until other people had their versions of it.
Yeah.
Nobody had any kind of quick change for the Sheridan when I did the Quicksilver.
Yeah.
And then the next thing I know, there's two more, one from Stan Russell and one from War Games.
Yeah.
About, and they had done the pump with the lever and all of that. And it's like, okay, fine. So I put out a $1,000 challenge. $1,000 to anybody that could outrun me changing CO2s with any system other than my own.
Yeah.
No. Nobody ever even got close to collecting.
Yeah. The first gun you
The
marketed?
first gun that I made
Yes.
would have been the Hurricane.
The Hurricane. And what year was that?
Built the first ones in '89.
So in 89.
Well, I built mine in '88, and then
and you based
for a
it
long-
on all the things you tricked out. So you've taken a Sheridan.
no, I took the most effective paintball gun I had and automated the action.
Yeah.
That's all.
And brought it up to date. And that was the
Camino.
first auto cocker.
Well, I won't call it an auto cocker.
But it was the
Yeah,
first auto cocking.
Auto cocking
Right?
paint
The first
gun, yeah.
auto cocking paint
I
marker.
utilized pneumatic automation.
Yeah. And what inspired you to come up with that? How'd you figure
Well,
that
there's
out?
Was that the first three-way? I mean, for the
Well, the four-way, but yeah,
four-way.
Yeah.
that was where that first got used.
And this is your innovation?
Well, not entirely.
Okay.
Making it a working gun was
Yeah.
my innovation.
Yes.
That was my claim. Is I developed the first gravity-fed semi-automatic that worked.
Yeah.
There was another guy at Venture Game Supply was a distributor at the time. Later turned and became Tasso.
Yeah.
But at Venture Game Supply, and one of the guys was at one of the early tournaments I was at in '88 out in New York, and he was trying to show this, and he had a gun that apparently one of his employees or an associate made that had a big welding tank regulator hanging on the side of it and hoses running all over, and it was an attempt at pneumatic automation, but it could never work the way it was set up. It could actually got it to cycle, but it wouldn't shoot paintballs.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
We got it to actually move back and forth, but it wasn't cock and fire and shoot paintballs. There was no timing element involved
Right.
in it. So
And how did you come about figuring out the timing?
I'm a gunsmith.
Okay, back to the gunsmith. There you go. That's what he does.
I'm a gunsmith and have been all my life. That was, when I was in the military, basically if the U.S. military owned it and it launched projectiles, I was qualified to deal with it clear up to depot level.
Yeah.
So
That's funny.
it was just kind of, I know guns like the back of my hand. I didn't even, that when the very first time I saw it and I saw what was going on, I went, oh, I can fix that.
Back to the hurricane.
And the first thing I did is I got home after the tournament and I contacted Adventure Game Supply because I didn't have access to the source.
This
for
is the
part.
survival games? Is this where you were at, this event?
No, it was the Big Apple Open
Yeah.
in June of 1988.
And who you were playing with then?
I was out there with the Ironmen on that event. Yeah, and I also had
That would be Bob Long and Mike Baird's dad?
Bob and I joined the Ironmen at about the same time.
Yeah.
I joined as an alternate. He joined as a teammate. But we started playing with them at about the same time.
Yeah.
And Bob was all football organized.
Yeah.
That's what we're...
And he was over in Concord, Delta Archery.
Delta Archery,
Okay.
correct.
So now the circle of your game is...
Bob McGuire actually got him with the...
Bob McGuire's outdoor back east, right?
Yeah, well, Bob McGuire, they did he had like a mini series on Bob as far as an archery hunter.
Yep.
Back in the day, and that's what kind of got Bob going, recognized for business and all that. And then he did Delta Archery and got into paintball. I think he still has Delta Archery.
All right, back to the thing. So you had this gun concept. You made a gun in '88, your first gun as you joined the Ironman, or?
Well, my tournament gun back in the day was a rifle turned pistol because the guns were arranged differently inside. A Sheridan rifle was much different inside than the Sheridan pistol.
Yeah.
Just by the arrangement of the components.
Yeah.
And I could get the rifle much more consistent.
That was
because
the
it had
KP rifle.
right, because it had a longer hammer fall, and I could set it up to where there was no preload on the valve when the hammer was forward. The hammer kind of bounced off the valve, and I could make it very efficient, very consistent, and drive tacks with it.
Yeah.
By comparison to what was available, I
And then
drove people nuts.
When did the change your game from the constant air to the constant air system? What year was that?
I didn't
You
use
always did
constant
12
air.
grams?
I didn't use constant. Matter of fact, my advertising. You might even find it in there.
In
There's
the
you might even see an advertisement with a circle says CA with a line through it.
Yeah. That's
Because-
constant air, right? CA was for
Yeah.
constant air now.
And I never had any use for it until I was playing with a Hurricane.
Yeah.
Till the semi got going.
So you had a KP rifle, modified, the Palmerized, as we would say, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was your first Palmerized? You
Well-
would legitimately say you put your name on it as your gun?
Well, actually, no. It was the double barrels would be the first unique pieces that I built.
Yeah. So you made a double barrel rifle, KP rifle?
Yeah.
And that was an 88. And that was 12 grams?
That was 87.
87.
I think it's. Oh, he had just had the picture there. I
Of
think
the double barrel.
It might even be dated.
What's this one?
No, there's a rifle sitting on the ground with the back up. Right there.
This one.
Yeah, is there a date on that? Double Trouble? Yeah, that was from '87.
No, there's no date.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
That was,
87 is when you made the Double Trouble.
yeah.
And that was a Sheridan based or Benjamin?
Yeah, it was that particular one started out as a standard Sheridan rifle.
And you modified it, opened up the valve.
Took the barrel off and did everything I had to do to make it a double barrel.
That was so cool.
Okay, so you're back to Bob Long. You played with Bob Long for how long now in the Ironman?
Oh, I didn't play with the Ironman long because they were trying to get a Line SI sponsorship for the Nelsons, and me and Ross Alexander didn't see eye to eye, so it wasn't in the Ironman's best interest that I stick around.
Yeah.
So I was not asked to come back.
Okay.
which was okay because I wasn't really into a full-time. I couldn't be sponsored by somebody because I was doing my own thing.
Yeah.
Like I said, I was an alternate for the Ironman at the time, but I was playing with them a lot up until not too long after that Big Apple Open that Bob started taking over.
That would be Bob Long.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So at that time, 88, after the Ironman thing, so you went and pursued, you came back and you were still working on your markers and your paralysis with working on guns started.
Well, I was in my garage. I was just
You were in your garage? Okay.
Yeah, I was a licensed business. I was legal and all of that.
Yeah.
But I was in the garage for the first year and 2 years actually. But the first year and a half of Palmer's Pursuit Shop, I was in the garage, and I started getting too much traffic, so I had to move out, and that's when I got the first job over on Development Drive or Sunrise Gold Circle. That was
June
of
was
1989.
89? Okay. And then so your product
And
started,
that was all about the same time I was starting to put the Hurricane out on the market.
and your products started selling themselves.
Yeah, I never did advertise much. The magazines would do articles on me and that sort of thing, but my catalogs, or I was going to all the tournaments and trade shows. That was my advertising.
You're the walking billboard, the first, one of the first, huh?
No, we had lots of us at the trade shows back then.
Yeah.
I was doing all the Jim Lively events, both the Open.
The Tennessee thing, right?
Yeah. Can't think of the name. The name's gone.
No, the Knoxville.
And then the Master. Then they started doing the Masters.
That was like one of the first tournament series. The Lively, or was it?
Lively Productions. Yeah, that was.
But they had Survival in New York, Survival Games. They had like a tournament, right?
Well, that was Jerry Braun.
Jerry Braun.
And I can't remember what the name of his organization was back then.
And then there was the Lively, and that was.
But they were doing the New York. They were doing the New York stuff, and Lively was mostly in Tennessee.
And came out to California later, right? They had Texas.
Well, when he first came out, when he expanded, that was in '90.
90, yeah.
When they did the Bay City Open that year, out here in Vallejo, that was his first year out of Nashville.
And you brought a gun out in '90. What gun did you bring out? The Gatling gun? You had a rifle?
No, I had I played the '90 Bay City Open with a double barrel, and there was nothing in the rules against it. And then when they came out with the rules for the '91 Open, Bay City Open, that's when I built the grinder.
The grinder.
And that was all about trying to force Jim to, because see, Jim and I were pretty tight. We'd done some traveling with the Green Machine and all of that back then. But I was trying to get Jim to put some limitations on the firepower for the tournament circuit, and they wouldn't do it. So I showed up out at the field a day or so before the tournament, and I drove my truck and I called Jim over and I dug the grinder out of the side of my truck and set it up there. I said, "Is there anything in your rules that will keep me from using this in this tournament?" And I demonstrated it could be fired one barrel at a time. There was basically 3 semi-automatics sitting there with one automation system, and a crank to turn a fishing reel crank is what I used to hit hit the triggers with.
Oh,
And
wow.
basically, it was 3 Sheridan rifles in a box with
Just a continuous.
with the gear system to fire the triggers with.
And what was his response?
No, there was nothing in the rules to
Yeah.
stop me. I said, okay, fine.
And you
There
played
you
with
go.
the Dogs of War, right?
hmm
The Dogs of War are a noted.
Actually, I didn't play it because I didn't think that would be fair because I was too good with it.
Yeah.
So I let another guy named Gene Ackerman, I let him play it. And everybody complained. Everybody complained. So they finally put some rules out
Yeah.
to limit firepower to no multi-barreled semis. That's the first
Was
thing.
he that good? Was he that good with it?
Yep. No, that's just the rule
Right.
that they had added because, Jim and I talked a lot. And I said, well, if you got no rules against it.
So there you go.
So now they made a rule against it. No, that was the limitation to firepower was the rule actually written into his regulations is no multi-barreled semis. And see, back in the day, NSG had the old National Survival
Yeah.
Game when
Yeah.
all of their early tournaments, one of their rules was no wooden stock rifles. That's where
why that is.
There's a picture in there of a rifle with a metal frame stock on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was my attempt to get my rifle into tournament play, and that didn't work. So then I built my next gun. It's called a Paladin, which is basically a rifle with a grip frame on it, and they couldn't stop me then. But I was so far out shooting everybody else on the field that they didn't know what to do with me. I mean, they were on me constantly about velocity checks and all that.
What was their issue about the wooden stocks?
Back in the day, Sheridan rifles out of the box all shot hot.
Oh.
I mean, it was very common for them to be shooting up 320, 330 velocity.
Yeah.
Very common.
I was trying to tell.
And they were so outperformed the Nell Spots and Splatmasters that there was unfair competition.
Oh wow.
The arms race.
So they started, that gun there is that my Paladin? No, that's another one. That was actually a mistake that I fixed up and turned into a nice gun.
Wow.
The barrel was too long on it. Yeah, there's my rifle.
This one here?
Yeah, that was my first attempt at getting my rifle into tournament play. And they said there was a piece of wood on there still, so they wouldn't allow it.
That's the gun right there.
Yeah.
And what magazine was that? Probably APG?
Yeah, that was APG. That was
APG was the center of the world, right? Every month you get an APG magazine. Did you run down and get them too?
Oh, I had a subscription.
Yeah, had a subscription. He had it better. I couldn't afford a subscription. I had to go down to the liquor store and get it.
Well, see, I was advertising early on. I didn't have to buy them because I had my little advertisement in there, and if you were an advertiser, you got them for free. So I got, and I just kept the subscription going. But the only advertisement I ever did was that little 12-page ad.
Yeah.
It was only that big. That was the only, and that was just to advertise the Quicksilver.
I didn't know Rick Wilcox was ever young. Here's a young picture of him right here.
Yeah.
He was young.
Okay, back to the Iron Man with Glenn Palmer. And back in the day, you heard he started off with Bob Wong, and then he discontinued. When did you meet the Dogs of War?
When I first started.
You first started?
Yeah, when I first started, they were...
In Northern California, they were a prominent source or a prominent...
They were just another neighborhood group at the time.
Yeah.
There was, I don't know.
It
was a guy named Tony Lester, who was a truck driver at the time, kind of started the team, and he was friends with Rick and Lori, and then there was 8 or 10 guys together there, and I met them through playing with the team that I started with, the Windsor Warriors. I met the Dogs competing against them.
An event, yeah.
Well, it was every weekend was there something going on, but I met the Dogs competing against them, and basically I shot them up, and they asked me to join their team.
And that was, when was that? You ended up
That
being a
would have
dog.
been, that would have been 87.
87. So
Yeah,
the social
it was 86, 87, somewhere it's in there. Yeah.
So in the Sacramento area, you had the Dogs, you had the Windsor Door dudes, you had the Ironmen from basically the Delta area.
Well, the Ironmen weren't involved in the
Yeah.
SSI league thing, if
Yeah.
you will. It was kind of a league going, and the Ironmen weren't.
There yet.
That was.
They didn't
they
really
weren't-
they didn't do lively much, huh?
That wasn't lively. That was just local. It was
Yeah.
the tournament. I mean, it was the local field.
Yeah.
It was just their regulars, if you will. They were all little teams, and there wasn't even a league type of thing because there was no setup of who was playing what when. It was just when you got your
You
team
showed up,
together
yeah.
for a weekend, you booked your weekend, booked a day, and hopefully another team would have a day booked at the same time.
Yeah. And
That was your competition. That was who you played that day.
in the competition.
And
you
we
had
didn't have many walk-ons back
Yeah,
then.
you had like you brought 14 to 15 people with you. Huh?
Well, hell, we used to go show up with 30 and 40.
Yeah, 30 and 40. That's what I remember about the Dogs coming down to the Vallejo field because you always traveled in a big pack. It was a big
There were always a
to-do.
bunch of us, yeah.
Yeah, that was an all-day sucker. So after that, you came up with the Hurricane. It was an 88.
That's when I built Camille, yeah.
The Camille. Camille was the first.
I didn't put them on the market until 89
So in 89.
because of the agreement I had with the
The
Vincent
Hurricane was a stock, wood stock, correct?
Right,
Yeah.
wooden stock rifle.
And Bob Long and Carpet Bob used that in that season. Or was that 90? They used it for
Oh,
a minute,
no,
right?
it was-
Bob Long had one, right? Because Carpet Bob had one too.
I don't know if Bob played with one or not. Rick Sendejas is the one that comes to mind.
Yeah. Bob Long
He's the
had
one that started it.
Carpet Bob had one?
Yeah, Bob had one because the first thing they did is later on when they got their cockers, first thing they did is bring them to my shop to get me to finish them.
Yeah.
So the cockers kept blowing up. That's why I did the rock.
Yeah. And Carpet Bob at that time, he didn't have a cocker. He had a cocker, but he never shot it. He shot his Carter.
Nobody had cockers
Ranger.
until 91.
Yeah, he shot his Ranger. Carpet Bob did. He
Bunt
had a
gun?
Carter.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I remember him having the Hurricane, and that was a game changer.
But Rick Sendejas,
Yeah.
Mike Beard,
There was five of them they had, right?
I think Chip, a guy named Chip
yeah.
had one.
Yeah. The original five-man when they started to take off was Mike Baird, Ricky Zendejas, Chip, Bob Long, Carpet Bob, and Dave, his brother-in-law.
I know
Bob Long's brother-in-law.
I know that the one tournament they were at when they first won the 5-man, they called me at the shop and told me they won, and I said, "Hell, I didn't even know you were out there."
Yeah.
But we won, and I was gonna get on a plane, and it was just I couldn't get out of town in time really to get there without spending thousands of dollars, so I didn't go.
So from that, the Hurricane across the East Coast, where did it take off? What was your sales then at that time? How did the Hurricane sell itself?
All over.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, locally, because here they could see
Yeah.
them and use them. I think the first team to buy them was a group called the Psycho Bunnies. I think they were in, can't remember if they were in Michigan or New Jersey or out in that part of the world anyway. And they were the first team to buy them as a team, and then they were kind of comical because they had their new style of play was run and gun. They'd literally take running down the field and shooting the people as they went by.
Now with the Hurricane, now
They still kinda
at
do
that
that.
time, what would be the guns that were comparable to the Hurricane? The Tipman?
There were none.
There was none.
There was nothing. The Tipman, to me, if you're toting a Tipman, that's 60 caliber for one thing.
Yeah, the 62s.
Had no range.
Yeah.
If you were toting a tight Tipman, you were just a target. Even when I was with a pump gun.
Yeah, because they were just, right, it was an open bolt type of thing, pushing it with air. Right, and it was a leaky sieve, correct? I mean, the air came out the side, and CO2, it was the CO2 burn. So what challenged the Hurricane at that time, you feel? What was on the market at that time?
Nothing. I dominated that for that whole area for a long time.
88?
The first, I mean, the Chipmans tried to get close when they went to the 68 special.
Yeah. And that one, again, was...
Special.
That's good?
Don't ask me about year. I don't know those.
So what was your relationship with Dennis Tipman then? When did you first meet him?
We were friendly.
Yeah. From the trade shows, going back
Yeah,
east
from
all
the
time?
trade shows
Yeah,
is where I met Dennis.
So...
I mean, it was...
and now at the 68 special, that was his first attempt, and that was a open bolt blow thing, right? It pushed it in there, and was a leaky sieve with the CO2.
Well, the 68 special, basically, you cut the front end off of a SMG,
Yeah.
the original SMG, and then it was typical, what we now know as blowback.
Yeah, blowback.
And you'd bolt the receiver section onto where the old SMG workings used to be.
Yeah. Okay, so 88, 89, the Hurricanes are out there, and you had other innovative designs you were working on at that time? Or you were just doing some
Gun-wise?
production?
No.
Yeah.
All I ever did was I worked on the valves to get them more efficient,
And
sped up the quick
when did the
changes.
autococker come into play then?
First autocockers came out in 91.
91. So the Hurricane had already been out in 87, 89.
89, yeah.
The first true semi-automatic.
Bud tried real hard to steal it.
Yeah. So your gun led to
One of the
bases of his gun.
remember the guys that had Shoot to Thrill?
Yeah.
Jamal, and then when they had the indoor place,
Yep.
he was seeing me and Dan DeBone had Hugo was the first double barrel semi that I built. And
And where are these guns now?
well, I don't know what. I imagine Dan still got his.
Yeah.
I haven't seen Dan since I fired him. Been 20 years ago now.
Yeah.
But that was one of those things that I wasn't going to build one for anybody else, and he brought me a PGP one day. He said, "Well, you build double barrels and you build semi-autos. Can you you marry one for me?" I said, "Okay, fine." And he gave me that PGP to use for grip frame, and about 3 months later, I handed him Hugo, but it had a really squirrely trigger connection. It worked,
Yeah.
but it was really kind of squirrely.
So after the Hurricane, not to change, the Hurricane goes by, and what was the next innovative gun that you changed? I know you made the Stroker, a Storm, or
No, the Stroker is just a converted Sheridan with my pneumatic system
Yeah.
on a Sheridan.
and that's from
The
the Hurricane
Typhoon.
to the Typhoon.
The Typhoon is the one that we built from scratch, but it was essentially a converted rifle.
Yeah,
with a pistol. That was
because the tube was longer, right, on the bottom tube, like on the rifle. That was
the length of the bottom tube didn't make a whole lot of difference, but it had a 12-inch barrel instead of a 10.5. And the arrangement of the internals was different on the rifle,
yeah.
and was the format that I used for all of my guns ever since.
And the Blazer turned
Basically,
into
the Blazer is a Typhoon carved into an aluminum block.
which would be comparable to, per se, the autococker. It's an aluminum block.
Well, yeah,
But
with
yours
all
all
the crap
internals.
added on,
Yeah.
mine's all built in.
And exactly, that's the difference.
And I want people were bitching about the weight of the brass Typhoon, so I said, okay, fine. So I built one and got it down to 2 pounds. It was a finished product, finished gun with a brass barrel was 2 pounds.
And then your Blazers are fixed with the autococker or whatever barrel system they want nowadays? Or is it just autococker thread? The Blazer.
The Blazer was still a slip fit barrel unless Craig accepts special orders.
Okay. And that's what Craig, your son, Craig Palmer, his son, we discussed earlier, still at Palmer's Pursuit Shop. Where is it in? Sacramento, right?
Well, it's considered North Highlands now.
North Highlands, Palmer's Pursuit Shop. Anyways, so You guys haven't made any new guns since the Blazer, or you're continuously modifying?
No, just
but you've stepped out of
variations thereof.
Yeah,
But, no,
you've stepped back out of the game.
I'm out of it completely. I've been pretty much out of it for close to 10 years now.
10 years. And Craig, his son, has taken over and run it superbly, and that's another story. So, what else was I going to say? So,
But he's got lots of other products that he's doing that aren't paintball.
yeah, he's doing the 3D thing, right? The 3D printer
Well,
stuff.
he's got that going too. But we built stuff for about 10 different industries.
Yeah.
You know, outside of paintball. It started way back when we were building specialty rigs that they could use for inoculating sheep or cattle.
Yeah.
You know, they could carry portable and walk around the field and and we were building an air supply system with regulators and all that to handle their
guns.
Their vaccination guns.
Yeah.
And there's
And
we've
this
got
is the lineage
there's
for Craig, right?
numerous commercial industrial applications for some of the stuff that we build. So, and
Okay.
Craig's been pursuing that at length.
Yeah, we're going to be swinging by the shop and taking a look at that and talking to Rick Wilcox
And get some images for what your lineage is. But
Well, Rick is not part of the shop.
Lori.
Lori has been my office manager since Palmer's Pursuit was about 6 months old.
Wow.
Yeah. Rick is just married to Lori.
Yeah, well, yeah. How's
that?
Yeah, you know what you said.
Remember that.
You said even you said he was the last video we did was he was 100 years old. So yeah, sorry, Rick. Yeah, you're.
No, but early on I needed help, and basically somebody answered the phones, and so basically Lori was my secretary early on.
In your heyday, how many employees did you have?
20.
20? Wow. And you were still doing gunsmithing then?
No, not really.
Yeah.
Not.
Okay, once
I
you got
wasn't
into-
working on. No, I got into paintball. I couldn't work in real steel altogether.
Yeah.
There's another reason behind that. But
Yeah.
I'm not going to put that on tape.
No, we're just we're pertinent to paintball, right? This is all paintball. Into politics. Now we're going to go politics. Being a senior member of the community in Northern California, you've seen them come and you've seen them go, right?
Ooh.
And the politics. Your opinion about the rise of from recreation to the airball to the tournaments. Your opinion on where paintball is now. That you can.
I always thought going speedball was a big mistake. To me, that's not paintball. And when that became the justification was, well, it's easier for the refs to see what's going on. That was the
grind.
That was the early justification for it.
Yeah,
And it was they were trying to make it more spectator friendly. That's what got speedball going. Was trying to make it more spectator friendly so they could get it on TV and that sort of thing.
Which is a lot of people got their hand in the pie then.
And to me, it's like, and by that time I was getting older and slower.
Yeah.
I wasn't getting around on the small, fields and that sort of thing. I played it okay, but it was always the same. It just wasn't paintball.
Yeah.
So I kind of lost interest in it, and the attitudes of the kids playing it. It wasn't a matter of eliminating opponents; it was a matter of how badly you could beat them up.
Now paintball's taking you around the world. Is that correct?
Yeah, I played with the group.
Name some of the places it's taken you.
Oh, let's see. South Africa, Australia,
Yeah,
all of Western Europe.
Yeah, I saw something here.
Russia, Russia, Thailand, Malaysia.
So it's safe to
I've
say.
played paintball on every continent except on Antarctica.
Yeah. Okay. Really have. So, being an ambassador to the game, ambassador, manufacturer, an innovator, so you could formulate an opinion. Safe to say you could have an opinion. The paintball direction onto the world, you've seen it explode onto the world. What's your opinion on that?
Oh hell, that explosion happened a long time ago when it was still paintball.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden,
Commercialism?
yeah, that market, to where the gun became the game instead of the gun and how much paint you could put out. That became the game instead of the typical tactics, if you will, tactics and stealth and maneuvering, and that is where I thought the game should be. I played a high-tech game of tag.
Right.
That's how I looked at my game, and when it turned into everybody playing paint gun instead of paintball,
Took the fun out of it?
Well, and then you get guys that are just determined that you're not out unless I've shot you 10 times, or he's not out, I haven't shot him yet, and that kind of thing. That was another one of those things that would just tick me off, and I didn't want to play angry. I was afraid I got to the point where I was afraid I was going to hurt some of these punks. When you bitch about something and then they say, well, if you can't take the heat, get out of the kitchen, that's about the time I'm going to come unglued.
Been there, done that.
This is my kitchen and I'm not the one leaving.
Well, that's also, I mean, with the mag-fed guys versus the airballers.
Well, everything is like that.
Well, the mag-fed guys, I mean, we have, Kikko and I, we have some good friends that are mag-fedders, and
They play old type paintball.
Yeah.
They go out.
20 round in the mags. They carry out like maybe 8 mags, and every shot counts. Where like when I go out to the field, I got my
You
Bob
shoot 1,200 rounds.
I go out there with a case of paint, and I just hope to God out of that case of paint I get at least 6, 7 people out.
Well, I remember walking off a field one time years ago, or bat a field. It was a speedball. This kid come off, and man, I had a hell of a game. I shot 1,200 paintballs that game. And I had to stop and ask him, I said, but did you shoot anybody? Well, I did. I did keep this one guy's head down for a minute or two before I got shot.
Yeah.
And it's like, whoa, there's something really wrong with that picture to me. And having played with a high performance semi longer than anybody else on this planet, it always thrilled me to shoot less paint.
Yeah.
I played pump gun paintball, but I played with a semi.
Right.
To me, the semi was important to protect the shoulder. That's what really got me focused on it early on, was because I bad shoulder as standard playing high school football, and it was just this action for 400 or 500 rounds in a day was just murder to me. I'd go out to tournaments, travel in the tournament circuit, and I carried a shoulder sling.
Oh wow.
One of the strap slings, you put this thing here,
right.
And I kept it underneath my shirt. And between games, I'd have my arm in a sling because my shoulder hurt so much.
Wow.
I mean, I was just preserving it so I could play another game of paintball later. Wow. And that's why the semi became real important to me.
That's incredible.
And it wasn't a matter of how much paint I could put in the air to get you. It was a matter of, the follow-up shots were a lot easier, but 1 or 2 was enough.
Yeah,
If I didn't hit you with one, and I watch these guys shoot paintball, they never hit anybody. They come up, they start their shot with a, I'm going to put 20 balls in the air mentality, and even if they do hit you, they hit you with one of the first 2 shots.
Right.
They don't hit you with any of the subsequent ones. It never happened.
I can tell you right now, I've got more trees out than I did players.
Oh yeah.
So.
Well, I watched it a lot, and it's like, that's not paintball. They turn on the hose and then go try to find a target. That's not paintball.
All right, back to the thing. The arms race. The arms race in the early, what was that, 91? The Automag. The Automag, the
Well,
Illustrator.
I kind of started the arms race with the Hurricane.
So you're going to claim that? The arms race? I'm with the guy that started the arms race, my friend
That's
Glenn
the way I
Palmer.
always looked at it.
Palmer's Pursuit Shop.
The hurricane basically started the arms race. After that, everybody else was playing catch up.
So that would be the Automag, the PMI 3, the Illustrator, Titman's.
PMI 3 and 68 specials were first shown to the world in June of '90.
In 90, and that was the Lords of Discipline were the PMI team. Is that correct?
No, they showed up. Might have been the Lords playing with PMI, but
Right, and they changed to Aftershock, right?
I don't know
Wasn't there
how.
discrepancy
Well,
in the
there was. The Aftershock was the result of two teams,
Yeah.
and
was
one of it was the Lords of Discipline and somebody else. And anyway, it was the big shock of the big
Paintball thing in the Midwest,
yeah,
right?
that was
Chicago.
all. That I wasn't.
But
any
they were
part of that.
countering, the PMI 3 was made to counter the hurricane.
Yeah, the original Aftershock team, Rennick Miller, they were using my equipment, and I had actually shown him how to do some of the stuff to
Modify it.
yeah, and then
He became Bad Boy Toys or affiliated
Yeah.
with them.
and because I wouldn't basically give him hardware
Yeah.
to sell, they started marketing their own stuff. That was their first. Basically, the rock regulator,
Yeah.
the FGP.
They made
You
the
can
hammer
imagine-
to crush you, didn't they?
Huh?
I thought they made the hammer to crush the
No,
rock.
that was Bud.
Okay.
Yeah, that was a sledge. His regulators with the sledgehammer regulators,
That was supposed
and
to
he
crush.
even advertised it. To crush a rock. It's like
So we got that.
But see, the sledgehammer regulator was a fuel systems regulator. It was for liquid. It wasn't for air.
Oh, wow.
The design of it, and it was the way Bud explained it to me. It was a fuel system aircraft fuel system regulator. That was the design of it.
Right.
That's what he put, and that's what he turned into the regulator for the.
To crush the rock.
Yeah.
Just rock.
That was the sledgehammer regulator.
So that we got the arms race going on, and we're up to the PMI 3 Lords of Discipline, which were two different teams. Became Aftershock, Rennick Miller, Bad Boy Toys, and then who else in the Midwest? Or also in the ANS. Who was ANS? There were another.
I can't remember.
But there was
Guy's
a couple
name
of
was-
companies that were duplicating your
Well,
product.
Sergey is the one guy. That was the ANS stuff, I believe, down in Southern California. There was a lot of that. People started doing their own versions of stuff that I'd been doing. you
Yeah.
know. I mean, everybody came out with an LPR there for a while.
Yeah.
And we had our start started out huge because
Yeah.
they were made out of the bottom tube of a Sheridan. And then I got a machine. Bought my first. Actually, you'll see it when you go down to the shop. The Waddell, which was an auto chucking lathe, and I bought it specifically to build regulator parts because I was needing so many of them all of a sudden. I couldn't hand make them anymore fast enough. So I
people
bought
start-
that, and we downsized it. Then I got to the smaller version of the brass rock. Then I figured out how to make them out of aluminum and keep them going and get it done right. That became the mini rock.
And these things were running on CO2 at this time. So we're still in the CO2 age.
everything I was doing was all geared to handle anything you put through.
Anyways, but at that time the market was CO2. We haven't gotten to compressed air yet, right?
Yeah, not really.
And when was that in? That was like 93, 94?
I think 93.
93? And then they were
I
running
always looked at compressed air came about because they couldn't get the automags to work right on CO2.
and that was Tom K with his product, right? Now, were there anything with his regulation related to you, Air America products, in theory or technique? No. It's a whole different animal.
They did their own. The regulator he put on the back of the automag was very similar to the one to my rock regulator
Yeah.
in layout, but he didn't get the dimension. It was too small around. The piston was too small around, so it wouldn't handle CO2. The piston was too small and the valve seat was too big.
Yeah.
So the ratio of change, a little bit of pressure change on the supply generated a lot of pressure change on the output.
Yeah.
So and one thing consistent with CO2 is its inconsistency.
Yeah.
And everything I did was built to accommodate that. So that was the big difference there. But and Tom, being the wizard that he is, all of his in-shop design work was all done with uncompressed air. He wasn't using, it was a cheaper source of power source for him. So
And with that off the bat, they didn't come out with compressed air. They went with nitrogen. didn't they?
nitrogen originally, yeah,
And what was the theory of nitrogen?
because you could just buy a tank of it.
Yeah, you just buy a tank of it.
You weren't
It wasn't.
you weren't often going to buy a tank of compressed air. You could buy nitrogen, and nitrogen was dry.
Yeah.
There was no chance of having any
Condensing
liquid in
yeah.
it. So
So
with
that-
compressed air, you get a lot of garbage in the air.
Yeah. You got to have a filter on it, right? VD on it. You get the-
CO2 freezes everything up inside the gun.
Yeah. So at that time.
Well, if you paid attention to your CO2, I never had a problem with it.
No,
I could take an automag and shoot it on CO2 just fine.
Yeah.
With my regulators and the way, but
And the siphon tank.
I accommodate anti-siphon.
Yeah. My cocker ran on-
Anti-siphon and a primary regulator before you got to the guns regulator.
Yeah.
Right.
There was never any problem because my regulators dried the gas out pretty good.
And-
As soon as you got it down below about 450 psi, CO2 can't sustain liquid.
Right. A lot of the guys that use CO2 with like the Titmans and stuff like that, they use the remote lines, which is kind of like a
Expansion chamber.
expansion chamber.
Absolute waste of time. If you put liquid in one end, you'll get liquid out the other.
You guys heard that, right?
Now, expansion chambers.
a
Did you make
scam.
expansion chambers? No.
Nope.
Yeah,
Never.
expansion
To
chambers are
me,
a scam.
an expansion chamber was just a big waste of time, and actually generated more inconsistencies.
Yeah.
You know, if you put an anti-siphon tube in your tank, and paid attention to what was going on, I always considered a full tank of CO2 was about 10% less than what the stated capacity was. I used 12-ounce tanks, and I put 10 ounces in them.
Yeah.
And you just got more consistency out of the tank throughout its fill.
Yeah. Doing the Coke bottle thing, pouring it, right? If you pour it too quick, it goes bloop, bloop, bloop. If you just second, it gets a good
No, it's just because CO2, if it wants to expand and become a gas, and it has to have room to do so.
Yeah.
And if you take a tank and fill it its stated capacity, it ends up with a certain pressure cap. If you're close to that fill state, if you have a smaller room, your pressure spikes. But like I said, I used a 12-ounce tank and put 10 ounces of gas in it. And if it was 800 pounds when I started, it was usually 800 pounds when I finished.
Yeah. Next question. When did you go low pressure guns? Did you go low pressure?
I never was a big fan of
Low pressure?
what people call low pressure. Lower pressure,
Yeah.
lower than static on CO2, yes.
Yeah.
But when people were thinking, oh, the lower the better, yeah, I was hanging around 450, 500 psi.
Yeah.
Around 450 was where I went because, to me, that's with CO2. I never used it gauged. I set the gun up to work and then check the pressure. Everybody, but it always kind of worked out to where I found out that around 400 with CO2, around 450 psi, it's really I can keep the gun real consistent throughout the range.
Okay.
As far as lowering the pressure, even with compressed air, if you lower the pressure too far, it just slows down the action of getting the ball launched, and that's counterproductive too to overall performance.
Okay, now that we got the arms race, we went from the arms race to compressed air to CO2, or CO2 to compressed air. What about the electronic guns and the evolution of?
I don't know anything about them.
Okay.
But I have absolutely no. my big bitch about electronic guns is that you don't have anymore. You don't have to be responsible for every shot that comes out.
By volume.
Back in the day, the smart part people, what they call ramping now was just a cheat code.
Yeah.
Was just a means to cheat.
Yeah.
And it's not switching to full auto. We're going to call it ramping, so it's not switching to full auto.
No, because you got to pull the trigger 3 times in a certain second.
Yeah, but then that's when it switches to full auto.
Right. Which I never understood.
And see, back then, there wasn't even a speed rate that you could dial in. It was either running semi or it was running full auto.
Right.
And it was all triggered. I mean, hell, early on, I know one tournament, the turkeys had magnets in their gloves.
It's not a myth. It is true. It happens. I've witnessed it.
For switching the gun. And I mean, I've watched guys go from shooting 280 on the field to shooting 350 by just how they changed their grip.
Yeah, well, I personally know what 350 feels like.
Well, I do too.
Yeah.
But the fact is, it opened up to, it's human nature. You give me a way to cheat and get away with it, I'm going to use it. Well,
To make up for their inability to play a simple game.
that was the whole thing. The electronics gave you a way to cheat. Legitimately, once they changed the name.
Has anybody ever tried to get you to put electronics on your guns?
Yeah,
on your markers?
everybody has. And
Yeah.
Craig did a few.
Yeah.
There's a few E-Blazers out there. I was never interested. That was you want to do it, that's fine. But I didn't really want any part of it. To me, I believe you have to be responsible for, and you have to. You got to make it. You have to make it happen, and you have to be responsible for the results. And if you're not playing the gun's playing you. No, thank you.
Yeah. Except you're going to be bombarded with buy a new gun every year like a car because it's the same gun,
Well,
but it's just a different color.
we used to bunker people when at indoor events and stuff. We'd bunker people all the time with like pump guns. I'd shoot you once or twice, boom, boom.
Yeah.
But now it's the whole thing is you get it going before you get there, so you're shooting on full auto at 15 balls a second before the gun comes around the corner. The poor guy on the receiving end's got no choice but to get hammered.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of attitude with me that would get somebody hurt. You're gonna put that shit on me, and I'm gonna be pissed.
I'm going to hand one back to you.
And no, I would never use my paint gun for on-field justice. My paint gun will go on the ground, and I'll go get up in your face. Always did.
And that's how it used to be, huh? Back in the day?
I never used my paint
Well,
gun
and
for
that's-
on-field
and that's how
justice.
In
it is-
events
that's how it
and
is still.
tournaments, huh? There used to be a lot of bickering. The truth about it, paintball has always been about taking it, jumping over the line, calling a guy out and jumping back over and making you look like you're the fool. Something like that.
Oh, I've seen guys run out of bounds and circle in tournaments. Run out of bounds and circle around and come back in at your backside shooting you. Where the hell did he get here? No way he could have gotten here. Yeah. Dennis Wolf. Thank you. Yeah. Oregon.
He was on constant pursuit. Remember the Wolf? Where is he now? Well, I'm right here, Wolf. All those who came before me. I'm with Glenn Palmer. Matter of fact.
I watched it happen.
Yeah, the truth.
So.
And this is the Freddy show. Freddy Valente. Freddy the Ref. Check us out, right? And what else we got questions? So you pulled out a couple years. How's your health? You're doing right now?
Yeah, pretty puny actually.
Yeah, you had a motorcycle accident a while ago.
Some years ago, August of 11.
Yeah.
I'd be working on 6 years now,
And you bumped your head?
Yeah, that too.
Yeah. More than once?
I don't know.
And your other health?
Enough to give me amnesia and change a lot of other things in my life.
That makes you special. You got amnesia too?
Yes, I do. about a year, almost a year of my life is gone.
Yeah.
But after the accident, basically about 10 days before the accident to numerous months after are completely vacant. I only have pieces of memories of a lot of stuff after that. A lot of times I can't remember what I did yesterday.
Yeah.
Or what I read 5 minutes ago. That's been a real frustration. I can't read a page out of a book, and I read a paragraph and have to go back and reread it a couple of times so I can kind of remember it. And by the time I get to the end of the page, I went down to the shop early on, trying to figure out how to work on some of the new guns. Learning is not an option these days.
Yeah.
Didn't matter anything. If man made it, I could fix it. Well, that's not the case anymore.
All right, I got a question for you. They just had the Hall of Fame, Paintball Hall of Fame, and were you inducted?
No.
No. Were you contacted?
No.
No.
I did see the list, and
Yeah. Do you feel that you're comparable to them? Well, do you think about stuff like that?
no.
No? Okay.
I don't. It doesn't. It makes no difference to me. That's like the Living Legends games. You know, I got invited to the first one of those, and it was. There was twice as many legends on the stage as there should have been, and a lot of them were just legends in their own mind. And there really weren't no more than bloggers.
Yeah.
There were guys that were part of the living legend of paintball that were little more than bloggers.
Yeah.
Because they typed a lot, they were now legends in paintball.
Yeah.
So that's why I quit going. My son Craig went, I think it was the third year, and he said it was even worse.
Big. Yeah. When I was up to that time, they didn't have a very good turnout like a year ago.
The Living Legends?
Yeah. Or no, not the Living Legends. The one they had at West Coast?
Oh, no.
No.
That's
Living
Dead Legends.
Oh, Dead Legends.
That was Living Legends.
Was
is the
back
one
in Chicago.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Okay, that's the whole. Yeah, they had a great turnout there, and you've
Yeah.
probably seen a lot of these big games, huh? Participated in them.
Oh, I used to.
Yeah.
For years I did, yeah. But like I said, I went to the last of those I went to was the first Living Legends out there. And we had a lot of bodies, but a lot of what they were calling legends were I didn't fit.
Yeah. The new generation.
So yeah, a lot of them didn't fit to me. So I just, oh well.
This is Kikko, Freddy the Ref, Glenn Palmer, innovator,
Next time.
legend, friend of mine. Many a time when I was in a tournament circuit back in the 90s and I was stuck in like Chicago or Florida or Vegas, wherever, always a friendly face here, always a good person. Kikko with Glenn Palmer, Palmer's Pursuit Shop, Freddy the Ref.
Laters.
All right, guys. Well, thank you for watching. Big thank you to Mr. Glenn Palmer, and of course, my partner in crime, the Golden One.
You're welcome.
Anytime, buddy. Anytime. So thank you again, and we will see you guys real soon. See you guys in the middle.